Lucas Grant adjusted the brim of his worn-out cap, his hands roughened from weeks of manual labor. The once pristine hands that had signed million-dollar contracts now bore the calluses of a mechanic. The air in the small, dimly lit room he rented was damp and cold, a stark contrast to the luxurious penthouse he used to call home. He sat on the edge of the creaky bed, staring at the cracked mirror on the wall. The reflection staring back at him was almost unrecognizable, his neatly combed hair replaced by a messy mop, his tailored suit swapped for oil-stained overalls. Lucas Grant, the genius inventor who had revolutionized the tech industry, was now living as an ordinary man. For years he had been surrounded by people who praised him, admired him, and even loved him, or so he thought. But after his last relationship ended in betrayal, Lucas realized the truth. People were drawn to his wealth and status, not to him. That realization had led him here, to this small town on the outskirts of the city. He had taken a job at a local mechanic shop, earning just enough to get by. It was an experiment, a test to see if he could find someone who would care for him without knowing who he really was. But the past few weeks had been harder than he imagined. The long hours at the shop, the cold nights in his tiny room, and the loneliness that gnawed at him. It all made him question if this plan was worth it. As he stared into the mirror, Lucas muttered to himself, "Will anyone ever see me for who I really am?" The sound of laughter from the street below pulled him from his thoughts. He walked to the window and looked out. A group of children were playing, their carefree joy a stark contrast to the weight he carried. Lucas sighed and leaned against the window frame. Tomorrow would be another day at the shop, another day of blending into the background, but deep down he held onto a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would see past the grease-stained overalls and into his heart. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the small mechanic shop where Lucas worked. The rhythmic clinking of tools and the hum of engines filled the air as he wiped his hands on a grease-stained rag. It was another ordinary day, or so he thought, until the sound of a soft, hesitant voice broke through the noise. "Excuse me, is anyone available to help?" Lucas turned around and saw her. She stood at the entrance, holding the handlebars of an old, battered bicycle. Her auburn hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her kind hazel eyes scanned the room nervously. She wore a simple cardigan and jeans, her appearance unassuming yet effortlessly charming. "I can take a look," Lucas said, stepping forward. Her face lit up with relief. "Thank you. I think the chain's broken and the brakes aren't working properly." Lucas nodded, taking the bike from her hands. "Shouldn't be too hard to fix. Give me a few minutes." As he worked, she stood nearby, watching him with curiosity. "Do you work here full-time?" she asked, breaking the silence. "For now," Lucas replied, keeping his focus on the bike. "It's honest work." She smiled. "That's a good way to look at it. I'm Emma, by the way. Emma Carter." "Lucas," he said simply, glancing up briefly. "Well, Lucas, I appreciate you helping me out. This bike is my main way of getting around. I'm a teacher, and my students would probably riot if I didn't show up on time." "A teacher, huh?" Lucas said, tightening a bolt. "That sounds like a tough job." "It has its challenges," Emma admitted, "but I love it. Kids have so much potential, and I want to help them see it, especially the ones who don't have much support at home." Lucas paused for a moment, her words resonating with him. There was something genuine about her, something that set her apart from anyone he'd met before. "I'm done," he said, standing up and handing the bike back to her. "Should work fine now, but let me know if you have any more trouble." Emma tested the brakes and smiled. "It's perfect. Thank you so much." As she reached into her bag to pull out some cash, Lucas shook his head. "Don't worry about it. It's on the house." Emma hesitated, then smiled warmly. "That's very kind of you. Thank you, Lucas." Before she left, she turned back to him. "Actually, I'm organizing a small charity event this weekend. We're collecting supplies for underprivileged kids. You should come by if you're free. It's at the community center, just a few blocks from here." Lucas was caught off guard by the invitation. I'll think about it, he said, trying to sound casual. I hope you do, Emma said with a smile. It was nice meeting you, Lucas. As she walked away, Lucas found himself watching her until she disappeared down the street. For the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. That evening, as he sat in his small rented room, Lucas replayed the encounter in his mind. Emma's kindness and warmth had left an impression on him. She didn't seem like the type of person who judged others by their appearance or status. But a part of him was still hesitant. What if she found out who he really was? Would she see him differently? Lucas leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. He didn't have the answers, but one thing was certain: he couldn't let this be the last time he saw her. The weekend arrived faster than Lucas expected. He stood outside the community center, his hands shoved into the pockets of his worn jacket. The sound of laughter and chatter drifted through the open doors, and he hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The room was bustling with activity. Tables were piled high with donated clothes, school supplies, and food. Volunteers moved back and forth, sorting items and chatting with one another. In the middle of it all was Emma, her face glowing with energy and purpose. She was helping a young boy pick out a backpack, crouching down to his level and speaking to him with a warmth that made Lucas pause. "Lucas, you made it!" Emma's voice broke through his thoughts. She stood up and waved him over, her smile as bright as the sunlight streaming through the windows. "Yeah, I figured I'd stop by," Lucas said, trying to sound casual. "I'm glad you did," Emma replied. "We could use an extra pair of hands. Come on, I'll show you what to do." For the next few hours, Lucas found himself immersed in the work. He helped sort donations, carried boxes, and even played a quick game of tag with a group of kids who had decided he was their new favorite target. Emma was everywhere, organizing, encouraging, and making everyone feel welcome. During a quiet moment as they were stacking boxes of canned goods, Emma turned to him. "So, Lucas, what made you decide to come today?" Lucas hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I guess I just wanted to do something different. It's been a while since I've done anything like this." Emma nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's nice, isn't it? Helping others, being part of something bigger than yourself?" "Yeah," Lucas said quietly. "It is." As the day went on, Lucas found himself opening up to Emma in small ways. He told her about his love for building things, though he avoided mentioning his career as an inventor. Emma, in turn, shared more about her life. She talked about her students, her passion for teaching, and her dream of one day opening a free learning center for kids who couldn't afford private tutoring. "It's just a dream, though," Emma said with a small laugh. "I don't have the money or the resources to make it happen." Lucas looked at her, his heart tightening. She was so selfless, so dedicated to helping others, and yet she didn't have the means to achieve her own dreams. "You never know," he said. "Sometimes dreams have a way of coming true when you least expect it." Emma smiled at him, her eyes soft. "Maybe, but for now, I'm happy doing what I can." As the event wound down, Emma walked Lucas to the door. "Thank you for coming today," she said. "It really means a lot." "I'm glad I came," Lucas admitted. "You're doing something amazing here, Emma." She blushed slightly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "It's not just me. It's everyone who helps out. People like you." And Lucas smiled, but inside, he felt a pang of guilt. She thought he was just an ordinary guy, someone who shared her struggles. If she knew the truth, would she still look at him the same way? Over the next few weeks, Lucas and Emma grew closer. She would stop by the mechanic shop occasionally, sometimes just to say hello, other times to bring him lunch. Lucas found himself looking forward to her visits, her presence a bright spot in his otherwise monotonous days. One afternoon, as they sat on a bench outside the shop sharing sandwiches Emma had brought, she turned to him with a curious expression. "Lucas, can I ask you something?" "Sure," he said, though his stomach tightened slightly. "You're different," she said, choosing her words carefully. "You're kind, hardworking, but there's something about you that doesn't quite fit, like you're not really meant to be here." Lucas froze, his mind racing. Did she suspect something? Emma quickly added, "I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, you seem like someone who's been through a lot, someone who's searching for something." Lucas relaxed slightly, though her words still struck a chord. "Maybe I am," he admitted. "I guess I'm just trying to figure out where I belong." Emma nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "I think we're all trying to figure that out in our own way." For a moment they sat in silence, the sounds of the town bustling around them. Lucas wanted to tell her the truth, to let her see the man behind the disguise, but every time he thought about it, fear held him back. What if she saw him differently? What if he lost her? One evening, Emma invited Lucas to her apartment for dinner. It was a small, cozy space filled with books, plants, and little handmade decorations. Lucas felt a sense of warmth and comfort as he stepped inside. "I hope you like spaghetti," Emma said, setting a steaming plate in front of him. "It smells amazing," Lucas said, and he meant it. As they ate, they talked about everything and nothing. Her favorite books, his favorite movies, the places they wanted to visit someday. Lucas found himself laughing more than he had in years, the weight of his secret momentarily forgotten. After dinner, as they sat on the couch with cups of tea, Emma turned to him. "Lucas, I'm really glad we met. You've become important to me." Lucas's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her, her face lit by the soft glow of the lamp, and felt an overwhelming urge to tell her everything. But the words caught in his throat. Instead, he reached out and took her hand. "You're important to me too, Emma." She smiled, her fingers tightening around his. In that moment, Lucas felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to make this work. The days that followed were some of the happiest Lucas had experienced in years. His connection with Emma deepened, and for the first time, he felt like someone truly saw him. Not the inventor, not the billionaire, but just Lucas. Yet the closer they grew, the heavier the weight of his secret became. One evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Emma spoke about her dream again. "I've been thinking about the learning center," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "I know it's a long shot, but I've started looking into grants and fundraising ideas. Even if it takes years, I want to make it happen." Lucas listened, his heart aching. He could make her dream a reality with a single phone call, but doing so would mean revealing the truth, and he wasn't sure if she would forgive him for hiding it. That night, as he lay awake in his small rented room, Lucas made a decision. He couldn't keep lying to Emma. She deserved to know the truth, even if it meant losing her. The next evening, Lucas invited Emma to dinner at a quiet, family-owned restaurant. He had chosen the place carefully, somewhere simple, where they could talk without distractions. Emma arrived wearing a soft blue dress, her hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. Lucas couldn't help but smile as she walked toward him. "This place is lovely," she said as they sat down. "I thought you'd like it," Lucas replied, his voice tinged with nervousness. As they ate, Lucas tried to find the right moment to speak, but every time he opened his mouth, the words seemed to catch in his throat. Finally, as they finished their meal, he took a deep breath. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice steady but low. Emma looked at him, her expression curious but calm. "What is it?" Lucas hesitated for a moment, then said, "I haven't been completely honest with you about who I am." Emma's brow furrowed slightly, but she didn't interrupt. "I'm not just a mechanic," Lucas continued. "I mean, I've been working as one, but that's not my real job. My name is Lucas Grant. I'm an inventor. I've built a company that develops technology, and I've been living here under a different identity to figure some things out." Emma stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You're saying you're wealthy? Famous?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, but that's not why I came here. I wanted to get away from all of that, to see if I could find someone who cared about me for who I am, not for what I have." For a moment, Emma said nothing. Then she leaned back in her chair, her arms crossed. "So this whole time, you've been lying to me?" "It wasn't about lying," Lucas said quickly. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to lose what we have." Emma's eyes filled with hurt. "Do you have any idea how this makes me feel? I trusted you, Lucas. I thought I knew you." "You do know me," Lucas said, his voice pleading. "Everything I've said to you, everything I've felt, it's all real. The only thing I kept from you was my name and my job." Emma shook her head, standing up from the table. "It's not just about your name or your job. It's about trust. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now?" "Emma, please," Lucas said, standing as well. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know how to tell you without losing you." Emma looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "You already have." With that, she turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving Lucas standing there, his heart sinking. That night, Lucas sat alone in his room, staring at the letter he had written to Emma earlier that day. He had planned to give it to her after their dinner, but now it felt pointless. In the letter, he had poured out everything, his feelings for her, his regrets, and his hope that she could forgive him. He had even included a promise to fund her learning center, no strings attached. But now, as he held the letter in his hands, he wondered if it was too late. Emma, meanwhile, walked home in a daze. Her mind raced with conflicting emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. She had opened her heart to Lucas, only to find out that he had been hiding a part of himself all along. Yet, as she sat in her small apartment, staring at the empty plate where Lucas's favorite cookies had been earlier that week, she couldn't ignore the memories of their time together. The way he had helped her at the charity event, the way he had listened to her dreams, the way he had made her laugh. Was it possible that he had been genuine, even while keeping such a big secret? Emma sighed, burying her face in her hands. She didn't know what to think, but one thing was clear. She needed time to figure it out. The days that followed were heavy for both Lucas and Emma. For Lucas, the silence was unbearable. He had sent the letter to Emma the morning after their disastrous dinner, but there had been no response. Each passing day felt like a reminder of what he had lost. At the mechanic shop, Lucas was worked in a daze, his usual focus replaced by a gnawing sense of regret. He replayed their conversation over and over in his mind, wondering if he could have handled it differently. Meanwhile, Emma was grappling with her own emotions. The letter Lucas had sent sat unopened on her kitchen table for 2 days. She wasn't sure if she wanted to read it. Part of her was still angry that he had lied, angry that he had made her feel like a fool. But another part of her, the part that remembered the way he had looked at her, the way he had supported her dreams, couldn't let go of the possibility that his feelings had been real. On the 3rd day, Emma finally picked up the letter. She unfolded it slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she began to read. The letter, Emma. "I know I've hurt you, and I don't expect you to forgive me easily. But I need you to know that everything I've felt for you is real. You've shown me a kind of warmth and sincerity that I've never experienced before, and I'm terrified of losing that. I kept my identity from you because I was afraid that if you knew who I was, you'd see me differently. I've spent so much of my life surrounded by people who only cared about my money or my success, and I didn't want that with you. I wanted you to see me for who I really am, not for what I have. I know I broke your trust, and I don't know if I can ever earn it back, but I want to try. I want to prove to you that my feelings for you have nothing to do with my wealth or status. And whether or not you can forgive me, I want to help you achieve your dream. Enclosed with this letter is a check to fund your learning center. There are no strings attached. It's yours to use however you see fit. You've inspired me, Emma. You've reminded me of what really matters in life. And even if you decide you can't be with me, I'll always be grateful for the time we spent together. Lucas." Emma stared at the letter, her heart pounding. She unfolded the second piece of paper and saw the check, Her breath caught in her throat when she saw the amount. It was more than enough to fund the learning center she had dreamed of for years. But it wasn't the money that moved her. It was the sincerity in Lucas's words, the vulnerability he had shown. She could feel his regret, his longing, and his hope. For the rest of the day, Emma couldn't focus on anything else. She thought about the Lucas she had come to know, the man who had worked tirelessly at the charity event, who had listened to her dreams with genuine interest, who had made her laugh when she needed it most. Could she forgive him? Could she trust him again? That evening, Emma made her decision. She grabbed her coat and headed out the door, her heart racing as she walked to the mechanic's shop. When she arrived, the shop was quiet, the lights dim. Lucas was sitting on a stool in the corner, his head bowed as he worked on an old engine. He looked up when he heard her footsteps, his eyes widening in surprise. "Emma," he said, standing up quickly. "I didn't think I'd see you again." Emma took a deep breath, her hands clutching the letter she had brought with her. "I read your letter," she said softly. Lucas's expression was unreadable, a mix of hope and fear. "And?" Emma stepped closer, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You hurt me, Lucas. You made me feel like I didn't really know you. But I've been thinking about everything. About the time we spent together. About the person you've shown me you are. And I believe you. I believe that your feelings for me are real." Lucas's shoulders sagged with relief, but Emma held up a hand. "That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Trust takes time to rebuild, but if you're willing to put in the effort, I'm willing to try." Lucas nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I'll do whatever it takes, Emma. I promise." Emma smiled faintly, her eyes softening. "And thank you for the check. It's more than generous, but I can't accept it, not like this. If we're going to do this, I want us to build something together, not because of your money." Lucas hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, we'll do it your way." For the first time in days, a small smile tugged at Emma's lips. "Good, because I think we have something worth fighting for." The weeks that followed were a new beginning for both Lucas and Emma. Their relationship wasn't perfect. There were moments of doubt, moments where Emma struggled to fully trust Lucas again, and moments where Lucas had to remind himself to be patient. But through it all, they worked together, slowly rebuilding the bond they had almost lost. True to her word, Emma refused to accept Lucas's check outright. Instead, they came up with a plan to fund the learning center together. Lucas offered his expertise in planning and logistics, while Emma focused on the educational programs and community outreach. It became a shared project, something that brought them closer as they worked toward a common goal. One sunny afternoon, they stood in front of the newly renovated building that would soon become the learning center. The sign above the door read, "The Bright Futures Center." Emma looked up at the sign, her eyes glistening with tears. "I can't believe this is really happening," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas smiled, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "You made this happen, Emma. Your dream, your determination, it's all because of you." Emma turned to him, shaking her head. "No, Lucas, I couldn't have done this without you. You believed in me when I wasn't sure I could do it myself. That means everything." Lucas's gaze softened. "You've changed me, Emma. You've shown me what really matters. For so long, I thought success was about money and achievements, but now I know it's about the people you share your life with. And I want to share mine with you." Emma's breath caught as she looked into his eyes. She could see the sincerity in his expression, the vulnerability he had shown her since the beginning. "I want that too," she said, her voice steady. Lucas reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. They stood there for a moment, the future stretching out before them, filled with possibilities. A few months later, the Bright Futures Center opened its doors to the community, welcoming children from all walks of life. The classrooms were filled with laughter and learning, and Emma's dream had finally come to life. Lucas became a quiet supporter of the center, often working behind the scenes to ensure everything ran smoothly. He didn't want recognition or praise. He was content knowing that he was helping Emma make a difference. One evening, as they sat on the steps of the center after a long day, Emma leaned her head on Lucas's shoulder. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked softly. Lucas thought for a moment before shaking his head. "Not really. I had everything I thought I wanted, but it never made me happy. This makes me happy." Emma smiled, her heart full. "Me too." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat together in comfortable silence. They had faced challenges, made mistakes, and hurt each other along the way, but they had also found something rare and beautiful, a love built on trust, honesty, and shared dreams. And for Lucas and Emma, that was more than enough. Thank you for watching this heartfelt story from Emma's Stories. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more inspiring tales about love, life, and second chances, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you think about Lucas and Emma's journey? Share your comments below. And remember, here at Emma's Stories, every story has a lesson, and every lesson has the power to change lives. See you in the next video.